We're now ready for our second highlighted presentation, sponsored by the Performance Assessment Committee. The 10-10 effort launched at last year's conference in Orlando. Many of you contributed valuable data over the past 12 months, and we thank you. So here to tell us more about 10-10 measures that matter are Alex Mance from Mance & Associates, James Blaschke from ConocoPhillips, Chad Hodovec from Burns & McDonnell, and Steve Mulva from CII.
Good afternoon. Hopefully everyone here is ready to make it through the next 50 minutes of a conversation that apparently somebody decided to schedule after lunch. Typically we come into these things and we turn the lights down, people get back in the far back part of the room and hope they can survive this thing. One of the things I wanted to do with my esteemed panel of associates here is to present to you the 10-10 Performance Assessment Measures That Matter program. Now, don't jump out of your chairs leaping and bounding about how exciting that subject is right now, because I know it's difficult conversation from where you sit today. And typically, we practice this, and we had several conversations prior to this about how we were going to talk about it and how we're going to introduce it. But as we were walking up on stage seconds ago, something happened to me where I've just killed my entire process, the program that I was going to speak to you about. I walked past that flag. And I say that for one reason. In this room lies, in the world of construction, in the world of corporate America, a significant contributor to how that flag will stand and represent itself for the next 50 years of this country. I'm not saying that for effect. I'm not trying to be dramatic. But as I look around this room and I sit at night and watch the news, the world's changing. Things are different. This room, 20 years from now, will look dramatically different. All the bald guys will probably not be in this room, including myself. So the conversation we want to have today with you is just that, a conversation. It's a conversation about performance assessment, because at the end of the day, performance, regardless of if it's projects or those that went to the stadium last night and got a little feel of professional sports, it is about people and how people perform. And in our industry, capital projects, we've for so long forgotten that there are people behind all the things that we've measured, and the reputation of many of our companies, as well as our individual careers, our families, all hinge on how we perform. So what I want to do today is introduce you, along with my august panel of contributors, to the CII 10-10 Measures That Matter program. You see here the CII Performance Assessment Committee, and before we get into this, I want to make sure you understand one thing. This information that we're going to present to you is information from CII participant companies. None of this is made up. None of the information that you're going to see is anything that we threw on the screen just to get you to say, I'm going to go visit that CII 10-10 booth because that's the silver bullet. It's not that at all. It's your information. And instead of calling me and hiring me as a consultant to tell you what you already know, all I'm going to do is put together some nice little PowerPoints and throw some music together and play a couple games and then cash the check. You hold the key to the future of project management. So this is your information that we're going to be speaking about. But before we get into this, I want to make sure that I ask one question. And one question is this. How do you currently, from where you sit today, see project management and how projects are measured and executed based on your education, your background, and how you've seen things done before in the companies that you've been with or currently work with? Because as we talk, I want to make sure that the conversations we have today aren't just conversations that you hear us regurgitating information out, but it's actually a conversation to cause you to pause and say, I never thought about it that way. So sit there and ask yourself why. And is it possible that CII's 1010 program assessment could be the first conversation of the next generation of how we run projects? We want to roll this video and just start the conversation off with just a little test.
This is an awareness test. How many passes does the team in white make?
Go!
The answer is 13. But did you see the moonwalking bear?
Go! How many people saw the moonwalking bear the first time around? How many people have seen this before? So thank you for acting like you actually saw the moonwalking bear, when in all actuality, you've actually seen it before. Here's the thing, that was the kind of thing you pay consultants to do, okay? We've made a lot of money doing stuff just like that, because you'll remember that moonwalking bear, but the real answer to the question is this: how easy is it to miss something that you're not looking for? And in the project management world, how easy is it to miss some things that maybe we haven't been looking for? We're going to talk about sports a lot because it's an analogy that makes a lot of sense and resonates for a lot of people, because at the end of the day, sports at the highest level is about performance. There was a time when I wasn't so rotund that I actually played a sport. And it's one that you're very familiar with. It goes with acronyms NFL. Now, I have a different relationship to those letters than you may. In my case, it meant not for long. I actually played 2 full months in the NFL. And why was it not for long? Because I did not perform at a level that was on par with what the coaches and the owners wanted. And my challenge to you is this: listen to the conversation we have today as a possibility that maybe there are some things that are missing in your performance that you never even considered, that the CEOs of your companies at the highest level are expecting you to deliver upon. Because I'm telling you, the way the world has been for the last 20, 30, and in some cases in this room, 40 years of project execution, it will be dramatically different. And the state of our union hinges on it. Our reputation on this world hinges on it. How do we show up in what we build and how we build it, and our efficiency in which people can work together and do things they have never done before? As you see here, Mickey Mantle, the quote reads, "It's unbelievable how much you don't know about the game you've been playing all your life." I just got off the phone with my wife. I've been married 26 years, and she repeated verse by verse how much I don't know how to be a husband. Thank you very much, my wife. So one of the things I want to talk about real quick when we start speaking about projects and project execution, this room is filled with brilliant people. There is no doubt. We even have in our panel some of the smartest people that I've ever encountered. And I'm privileged to be working with a group of people that I'm the dumb guy in the room. So it's not the knowledge that we're missing. It definitely isn't the insight or expertise. But if you look at this layout that we have on the screen right now, on the top you see where the performance assessment system has taken your typical project phases, front-end planning, engineering, procurement, and construction, startup and commissioning, operations, and just laid them out in the standard process that we all know. But hold on a second. Is there something inside that process and we've measured benchmarking for years. Over 20 years, we've had IPA and others that have pioneered the effort of benchmarking. But where do we do it? On the front end of the project, and then where else? This is the audience participation part of the program. And if I'm going to sit up here and look in the eyes of a completely dark room and make a fool of myself, I want a little love back. But typically, where have we benchmarked? The front end of the project, and then again where? At the end. So here's the question. What the hell happens in the middle? There was a study done in 2009 with the NFL. Then I read a lot of this literature because someday I think I'm going to get a call back and they're going to want me to play. But there was a study done in 2009 that said 83% of all scoring occurs in how well you succeed inside the 25-yard line. Now, many of you may be football fans, and you know that now to be the red zone. But 10 years ago, there was no such thing called the red zone. It didn't even have a language for it. There was no such thing. If you look at the way we do projects and the 10-10 program, and the credit to the folks that were on the committee, they've identified some potential red zones, and we're going to speak to them about transitions. What happens in those areas in between what we've previously benchmarked? What happens in these key red zones? The transition phases. The 10-10 program directs you right to those and asks some very pertinent questions. And they're not just questions called, how are we measuring in our control systems, or on our schedule, or on our TRI, or IRR, or TTRR, and all the safety stuff. It actually asks you questions not only there, but matches it with the people. How are people performing? How are the people inside and engaged in it? I was on a project not too long ago where the senior level management, I was called in to consult, the management couldn't get along. They hated each other. Senior level managers on a multi-million-dollar project. I did some digging as a consultant, talked to some people. I talked to the security guard on a Sunday evening and found out the project manager was married to the ex-wife of the engineering manager. Hold on a second. At no point in my MBA or in my ChemE or in my master's degree in engineering did anyone ever tell me I need to be on the lookout for divorced wives and future engineering managers having a conflict on the project. But once I found that out, I found out there was a people disconnect. Those two guys refused to speak to each other. Now, I'm also smart enough to not have gotten myself involved in that. But once we knew that, and that was present inside the project, we didn't have to benchmark that. We would have never caught it. It would have continued to fester and gone on and on. And 10-10, as ironic as it may seem, has laid out and said there is some priority that we need to put in measuring what happens in those individual phases. And they have questionnaires to direct you to it. So there's a booth outside that we're going to point you to after we finish our presentation and have more Q&A. So you can get some more insight to this because it's a phenomenal program and something that I absolutely believe in. Another quick example. In the past, oftentimes we figure meetings are just what they are, a necessary evil. We have to meet. Well, the 10-10 program, with data coming from your projects, has essentially said only 12% of the meetings have meaningful output that justifies the time investment. Now, again, Stephen, he doesn't look like a real honest guy, so he probably made this up. This is like the most honest looking dude in America. Okay.
I didn't make it up.
He didn't make it up. I kind of trust him, all right? He's one of those kind of guys. 12%. I'm currently working a multi-billion-dollar project as a consultant where when we went and asked the question, how are meetings going and how much time you spend in meetings, the 10 most senior managers were spending 8.2 man-hours per day in meetings. Now, I'm from East St. Louis. Hold your applause, please. So I might not be real bright at this math thing, but 8.2 man hours for the senior leaders per day in meetings. Then you tell me 12% of those meetings are effective? Because 1010 forces you to ask that question. What's really going on the inside of those meetings? Do you see how this math starts adding up? Is it possible we aren't even looking in the place where we have the greatest opportunity to increase our productivity and leverage some of the things that we think we know? Because I guarantee you, if you go to a C-suite officer levels office and say to them, we're behind schedule by 9 months, and we've pinpointed it and measured it and analyzed it, and it happens to be occurring because you only have 12% effectiveness in your meetings. That's a phone call I don't want to make. But that's what we're seeing. That's what we're delivering. And that's what you and projects like yours are experiencing. So consider that, and consider things inside of the things we've measured in the past, haven't even considered measuring. Whew. I'm glad I got past that little trick. Here's another example we want to give you, and then we're going to move into some more specifics and give you some videos that we'd like you to see. There was the rail company, the rail operator in France. They ordered they had a multi-million-dollar project, and they had to order 2,000 brand new commuter trains. Well, in some of those meetings where a number of people got together and they sat down and talked it through around their specs about the new trains and the platforms on all of their facilities, for some unknown reason, someone deep down in the project, and it was probably that guy that sits in the corner that doesn't talk to anyone, who's on his way out, and we can blame him for doing everything, gave them the wrong specification around the platforms. Gave them specifications that were only post-1984. Unfortunately, more than 1,200 of their platforms were built prior to 1984, as far back as the early 60s. So what happened? These trains come in here, all brand new, sparkling, and the majority of them don't fit. The cost was in the hundreds of millions to continue this operation, to actually modify and change things. And those are the upsets we know about. Think about the ones we don't. How many contractors in the room? Contract companies, we love you. I'm gonna say you are some of the best people in the world, because the owners in here, man, we love beating the crap out of the contractors. I can say that because I worked for ExxonMobil at one time in my life. There's no better ass kicker than ExxonMobil. So we're going to blame this on the contractor. But the next time I go to that same contractor and try to get his best bid, what do you think's going to happen? That's the game we're playing. And how could it have been avoided? Possibly one simple little conversation that didn't occur and questions that weren't asked. We're asking you to look at the business different. You hear the word transformation a lot. Us consultants made that up. Thank you for paying us a lot of money in the 80s for using it. You hear change a lot. You hear commitment to something different, a different possibility, a future. All that's good stuff. We've got great work processes. But we're asking you now to look at the 1010 program assessment and consider for one moment we may be on the brink of having a conversation similar to the one I'm about to show you, which is an actual conversation that happened between a rogue intern with the Oakland A's and the general manager, Billy Beane, some years ago. Just watch.
There is an epidemic failure within the game to understand what is really happening. And this leads people who run Major League Baseball teams to misjudge their players and mismanage their teams. I apologize.
Go on.
Okay, people who run ball clubs, they think in terms of buying players. your goal shouldn't be to buy players. Your goal should be to buy wins. And in order to buy wins, you need to buy runs. You're trying to replace Johnny Damon. The Boston Red Sox see Johnny Damon and they see a star who's worth $7.5 million a year. When I see Johnny Damon, what I see is an imperfect understanding of where runs come from. The guy's got a great glove. He's a decent leadoff hitter. He can steal bases, but is he worth the $7.5 million a year that the Boston Red Sox are paying him? No. Baseball thinking is medieval. They are asking all the wrong questions. And if I say it to anybody, I'm ostracized. I'm a leper. So that's why I'm cagey about this with you. That's why I respect you, Mr. Bean. And if you want full disclosure, I think it's a good thing that you got Damon off of your payroll. I think it opens up all kinds of interesting possibilities.
Brad Pitt's a nice-looking guy. That conversation is the type of conversation that we're asking you to consider, the possibility that there are things inside of what we currently measure and what we currently look at that may give us insights greater than we've had before. So let's just talk briefly about what we can measure. Work and work processes, we're great at that. We do it very well. That just tells us what we do, and we should continue to do those things. You well-intended, very smart people do that well. Organizational engineering, a very fancy way of saying, who the heck's going to be leading this work and how are we going to be getting it done? Let's not put too much drama into that. Who are the right people on the bus, and who are the right people to sit in the right chairs? Leadership and governance. The governance part almost makes my skin crawl because I look at and see the government. I don't want to do that. Leadership is what really is here that we want you to look at. How do the leaders on projects inspire people to actually do the job that they've been asked to do and to follow you? Because we all have had in our careers leaders that we love working for. And we've also had the opposite. It impacts project performance. Communication and information flow. We talked about something as simple as meetings. And then the business environment and culture. Culture is a tough thing. You have to be able to tap into as many points of leverage as you can, because often we're not changing culture in a project that only lasts 2 or 3 years at most. But you have to be smart and see where things are impacting your overall performance. The 10-10 program allows you to measure those things, so that will continue.
So using this equation on the upper left right here, I'm projecting that we need to win at least 9. This is building in all the intelligence that we have to project players.
Okay.
It's about getting things down to one number. Using stats the way we read them, we'll find value in players that nobody else can see.
Okay, thanks, Alex. This is actually from the 2002 season, and the transformation baseball has made sense and really using numbers to drive their performance. And really, that's what 10-10 is all about. It says here, we're focused on finding value in players that no one else can see and getting it down to one number. In 10-10, we get it down to 10 numbers, 10 leading indicators, 10 output measures. But they all surround the softer side of projects. I think Anna just said it. We're looking at the art and the science. We've been focused on the science for a long time. We've neglected the art, the softer side of things. By the way, the computer programming part in that's what we do at CII. I don't do it. We have a team of talented people at CII and grad students who do a lot of that, but this is essentially what we did with the numbers that you gave us. My job right now is to just sort of summarize what the 10-10 is all about, how it works, and obviously you can get more information from our booth. Give you a simple example. This was invented in Infernal Towers by Dr. Jorge Venegas, who's now the Dean of Architecture at Texas A&M. He's done a lot of research for CII. Essentially what he did is he said, if you take a team of 6 people, you give them a different role like builder, engineer, material supplier, QA, QC, and you give them instructions on how to do that job. And then you make them build this Lego tower that's 15 levels tall. What happens? Well, we tried this at CII recently. You can see the pictures of them working on it. It took them 11 minutes and 45 seconds to build this tower. What happened? These people got territorial. They stole Legos from each other. They were talking to each other. They were pointing at people. It was a real mess. They didn't understand each other's motivation or behavior. They didn't understand what they were doing. Then we took away the titles, all the baggage. We said, okay, look, just collaborate to build this thing. 1 minute and 49 seconds. So 85% less schedule. Unlike in the industry, these people did not sue each other. So that's at least one positive. Okay, so we launched 1010 last annual conference, July of 2013. You guys really stepped up. I think let's give everybody who participated a real round of applause here. The analysis we're going to show you and that James and Chad are going to talk about is based on 578 projects, largely from the industrial sector, but we launched the building and the infrastructure sectors a little later on, and that's why the responses aren't quite there yet. We also received a ton of projects in the general program, so together we're closing in on 800 projects for the year, which may be amongst the highest project benchmarking totals the industry's ever had. So really thank you for that. But these 578 projects give us a great basis to make some really interesting findings. Can we go to the next? Yeah. So the other interesting part here is these projects came from all over the place. This is really a global effort. We even have the surveys already in Norwegian, and we're going to continue to expand that around the world. How does this work? So essentially, it's like a 360 peer review. We get all the people on the project management team to answer these statement-based questions like the interfaces between project stakeholders were well managed. In the past benchmarking, we've measured things to 2 decimal points. It takes a long time. It's really valuable, but 1010, you can do these surveys in about 25 minutes. These leading indicators start telling us where we're going to have some problems, mainly around the art part of project management, around the organizational part. And this is the main thing that we found is that poor cost or poor schedule or poor safety performance today is mainly organizationally related. The working relationships amongst a continually expanding number of organizations on these projects. So the other part of this is, and Sherry Davis is going to talk about this in a bit, but we're aligning 1010 now with the knowledge base inside of CII, so it'll even help make some recommendations on how to move forward. If we look in front-end planning, something like supply chain management as a leading indicator, it's based on 4 statement-based questions. You can see a range of responses from strongly agree to strongly disagree. It's a 5-point scale. And these are really focused on asking about the supply chain, not what the process of managing the supply chain is, but how the people inside the supply chain are working together, what their working relationships are like. And that's a big distinction that really our industry has never made before. Next. Okay, so when we started to look at the real results from your projects, huge variation. You see on this screen something like from 20 to 90%. Anybody want to get a 20 or 30% on a test? That's not even an F minus. It's so low they'd probably kick you out of college, right? So this massive variance, and what that's showing up as is it's poor performance. It's because we've never looked at these leading indicators before. The analysis James and Chad are going to show here real quickly in a second, we just take the top 50%, the bottom 50%. We classify those as the high and low groups. Next. Okay, and then we compare that with a leading indicator like a cost or schedule metric. And what we continue to find over and over again is the people who have better scores on these leading indicators have better output performance in terms of cost, schedule, safety, so on and so forth. Okay, next. So in the product display area, we'll actually go through this. In fact, in front of you is this little booklet. Inside it has a complete scoring report for 1010 for the construction phase for a sample project. But what we're really talking about is the communication amongst the people. If you think about any of the best things that CII has ever done, a lot of them are about communication, like PDRI. It's not the score, it's the fact that what does the score tell you, what are the things you need to work on, and you modify your plan and you get better and you move forward. So read the booklet, but make sure to stop by the booth as well. The other part is we've got a new system. It was put together by a team from Instoa, and they're doing a great job. We are going to get the answers from all the members of a project management team. When we have multiple responses, this is basically the response you see on the left. It's lower than when you have a single response. But when you have the single response from the project manager, that's shown on the right. To the question, did leadership effectively communicate business objectives, priority, and project goals? Over 50% of the project managers responded strongly agree. Of course they did. They're responsible for that. Okay? And this is exactly why you have to survey a lot of different people. So what I say is if project managers aren't very good at taking surveys, because they're obviously biased, what are they good at? And that's really the subject of the next video. Can we go to the next one? So in this clip, Billy Bean is talking about what a project manager should be doing, motivating, coaching, inspiring people to perform, to reach the higher levels of performance, and sometimes even reinforce the process.
Be social out there.
Social.
Social, like a greeter at the Gap. Guy steps into your office, chat him up. You're well read. You went to school.
Yeah.
Have some fun, relax. Everyone wants to attack. Quit trying to attack. Let the game come to you, man. There's no clock on this thing. This is a war of attrition.
If I take more, I could even take a few strikes, but I'll get walked more.
You get on base, we win. You don't, we lose. And I hate losing, Choppy. I hate it. I hate losing more than I even want to win. And there's a difference. No bunts.
Bunt is now.
Not even third baseman's back.
No bunting whatsoever. If someone bunts on us, just pick it up and throw it to first. Don't try to be a hero and go to second. Let them make the mistakes. And when your enemy's making mistakes, don't interrupt them. They're giving you an out, man. They're just giving it to you. Take it. Say thank you. Another thing, no more stealing.
That's what I do. That's what you pay me to do.
No, I pay you to get on first, not get thrown out a second. This is a process. It's a process. It's a process. Okay?
So I'm going to start off, we're going to talk about a lot of the statistics behind 1010, what we got from you guys and what we've been able to, conclusions, high level to be able to derive from them. You know, Billy Bean, when he's talking, he says that he hates losing more than he hates winning, and there's a difference. You know, a lot of project managers in this room run projects. You know, if you got a project that goes well, yeah, you know, you're winning, it's good, you get a pat on the back, maybe your name goes in some publication, but Lord help you if you have a bad project. Here comes the cavalry. You get more help than you can deal with, right? So some instances, you know, hate losing more than like winning. That can hit home for us. You know, a lot about what projects are about making decisions. You know, what 1010 is trying to do is bring some facts, some true statistics to help decisions being made on things other than just gut feel and what we've done in the past. You know, front-end planning is something that our industry has talked about quite a bit.
I don't know.
Whatever. So the slide you didn't get to see shows a pretty incredible range of statistics. Thank you. That shows, you know, planning, human resources, leading. I mean, we've all talked about front-end planning for years. We're great at it. Well, if you look at the scorecard, right, the average range of planning, for instance, from a 90%, those companies that are doing very well, down to 15%, right? Why such a wide variety of successful planning in front-end planning in an industry, right, with a group of CII members that have been focused on that for years? So let me go over a few definitions, right? First one, planning. This includes the management activities of forecasting, objective setting, program development, budgeting, and governance, right? Those are all the questions that are asked of the team in 1010 about planning. Human resources is a FEL project. Is it staffed adequately? Does it have a minimum amount of staff turnover? Are these people trained? Can they achieve project goals? The next one on the list you can see is leading. You know, leading is defined by the effort of managers to cause people to take defective action.
Man,
Having
that's
a
a
rough
tidal
time
wave
here,
right
right?
there.
You know, communications, motivation, developing of people. You know, those are all part of the leading piece of this. And then obviously the output score there is the PDRI. Next, please. You can see the projects that do well in front-end planning, and then the projects that do not do well in planning, leading. You can see there is a distinct group of those that are doing well and those that are not doing well. And as you can see, the improved for PDRI score, scope definition, 29 to 30% for those projects that are doing well in those three categories. The next one is human
say
resources, right? Human resources. You know, if you got the right number of people, if you don't try to lowball your front-end planning team, if you got the right people, you got the right training, if you have low turnover, you know, those that can achieve goals. You know, if you had this approach to HR, you know, obviously you get much better scores. 22% improved in scope definition if you've got the right human resources.
This one.
Yeah, okay, great. Okay, Chad's going to talk about engineering design next. But before he does, realize that the starting point of detailed engineering is the end of your front-end planning. You know, you have to have the right scope definition. You have to have the right budget. You have to have the right plan. You know, if all of those are not correct when you start detailed engineering, you know, many of your projects are going to fail. So that's an important piece of this. Okay, I'm going the wrong way.
Typical project.
Yeah, exactly. Can I have that one back? Okay, go to the next one, please. Next one. One more.
Oh, I'm going the wrong way.
Shocky.
We're going backwards. Okay. Yay.
There we go. So before I start this video, I want you to think about in a world where all our industry, everybody in the industry was keen to what the leading indicators and proven successes were, a proven benchmarking strategy, making decisions based on actual facts. Then you'd have us be like baseball, you know, for the last decade. In fact, Sports Illustrated just projected the Houston Astros as a 2017 World Series champion due to their system of measurements and evaluation. Now that's some forecasting of performance.
I would be very surprised if you told me that even one team didn't use metrics and objective analysis to help make decisions. I do think some teams weight it more than others, but I do believe probably all 30 teams to some extent have a large portion of their evaluation process that's dedicated to using metrics. And now I think what you have is, I promise you, not just in baseball, but with other sports clubs, there's teams who have developed something that they feel is the elixir, that is the great evaluation tool that they're not going to share with anybody.
So that gentleman was the actual Billy Beane talking about his interpretation of metrics on the game of baseball. And I wrote down a few statistics because I'm sure everybody's going to be Googling either the movie or Billy Beane now or after the presentation. And I know you have to have a statistics degree to be a Major League Baseball fan. So since Billy took over the Oakland Athletics over 16 years, he had a win record of 54%. 54% of the time, the Athletics won. Over that 16 years, that put them third in the American League and fifth in Major League Baseball. When I first read that, I was like, you know, that's great. It's amazing. But that's not first or second, you know. But what's really impressive about Mr. Beane is he did that with 30% of the salary cap from the top MLB baseball club. So it's pretty amazing. If you actually rank them with the highest to lowest, they're actually 26 out of 30. So he found that elixir. And the Performance Assessment Committee is well on their way to finding the measurement elixir for our industry with 1010. The difference between performance assessment and the Major League Baseball team is they're going to actually share it with you. One of the questions I continue to get about 1010 is, how am I going to use it? What can I do with it today? And I know we haven't seen the output yet. It's scheduled to be issued in August, so it's right around the corner for those companies that did participate, and plenty of opportunities to participate in the future and get that output almost immediately. But I work as a project engineer for Burns & McDonnell, and through filling out this survey on our EPC projects, I've seen dramatic advantages without even seeing the outputs. Most namely, the communication. I see that these put questions in front of the project team at a continual pace through each phase that keep the questions on the table. They get the interaction, and like Alex said, not all meetings are productive, but it keeps them out there in front of everybody, and I think that has huge advantages. So let's get to the results. None of us have enough people. Wayne said it, other presentations said it, Alex said it, we all need more people. So what are we doing right now? We're trying to get everything we can out of the people that we do have. On the right, you see a graph of engineering total team size to total project costs. Once again, huge variance, all the way from 0 up to 3. It's huge. So why is that? That could be project complexity, could be location, could be size, could be many different things. But in the analysis, the Performance Assessment Committee actually thinks that the leading indicators of design efficiency and quality have a higher impact on that metric. Quality simply being defined as performance conformance to the project specifications. And then design efficiency is a leading indicator that measures if a team is exhausting all techniques needed to optimize the design and the use of materials. Or said a better way, are you maximizing capacity at a minimum cost? And you'll notice with those two, those also have wide varying ranges of results. So the one takeaway I want to get from this slide is, in order to conform to the project requirements, quality, in order to produce efficient designs with use of material, we need more people. Both of these charts indicate it. So truly, engineering is a penny-wise, pound-foolish scenario. And we all know that compared to construction, engineering is a lot less expensive. So you definitely get what you pay for. But it's not just that. You have to have the right people doing the right things to make this entire thing work together. Almost got me. So looking at numbers, how many more people do we think we need? Looking at quality and design efficiency, we think anywhere between 35% to 74% more engineers are needed. Now, we talk about more engineers and people are thinking money. So as an industry, we have to be cognizant of our burn rate, or how much money we're spending on engineering per day. And that is shown on the right. Once again, large variance. Next to it, we have the leading indicators of organizing and design efficiency. Also a large variance. Like I said earlier, the 1010 is going to continue to move forward. So as more companies and more projects get entered into this system, we expect to see those variances minimized. We also expect to see more projects get up closer to the 100% mark, which will be really exciting. So shown another way, both charts, organizing and design efficiency, show the same thing. We can reduce the burn rate and have high efficient designs if we organize the projects well. So the definition of organizing per the 1010 is the work management performs to arrange and relate the work so that people can do their jobs effectively. Does everybody know what they're supposed to do? Now, this includes setting up the organizational structure, delegating of responsibilities, and even establishing relationships, internally and externally. So it's definitely a key to making this whole machine work. So 57 to 61% less spend per day. Now, be cautious. One thing we're talking about is the spend per day, not total engineering. So I'm not going to go so far as to say that you have to extend engineering, but it might say that with a longer engineering phase and a reduced burn rate, we may see more efficient designs with the use of materials. Wow, that was quick. Okay, so to wrap up engineering, if we execute FEP correctly, we pay attention to the right leading indicators, we go into engineering and we make sure that those stay at the forefront of every discussion, we're going to set our project up to be successful in the coming phases: procurement, construction, and startup and commissioning.
What's that top one?
Top one, yeah.
That one, thank you. Procurement. Next phase is in the EPC process is procurement. The way that we have measured procurement is the total project cost divided by the total number of vendors. You can see this on the right-hand side. On the output side, we've looked at variance in quality, which you can see as the other graphs has a very wide variance. Organizational inputs in the supply chain, and that leads to the cost, as you can see on the right. Both for organizing and supply chain have a big impact on procurement cost. These projects tend to have a better relationship. When you have a better relationship with your vendors and suppliers, that goes into your organization, and those are some of the soft costs that we measure on the 1010 program. 38 to 39% less procurement spend when you've got the right organization and the right communication. The next one has to do with quality. Obviously, quality affects the outcome of a project. And here in the input measures, we're looking at quality as it relates to project requirements and effective delivery of equipment and materials. Obviously, communication is another big piece of this. And here we can see 45% less procurement spend for those projects that do have good communication and do have good quality measures in their projects. We've got like I mentioned, we've got a pretty substantial database that we've been given by you CEI members, 500 plus projects, to be able to measure and study, how organization in the supply chain can help positions team in their procurement phase. So, I know we're going through a lot of stats and a lot of definitions here, but the real key is that we've got a big database, we've got a lot of projects that you've provided to us. Use that to your advantage. Fill out one of these surveys for your projects and see, which of these areas you can make improvements in your project, and you'll be a better organization for it.
Thank you, James. Going into construction, so I don't know about everybody in here. I love engineering, I love front-end planning, but I really like making my construction guys happy because it makes my life a lot easier towards the end of a project. So just like in engineering, we're going to talk about workforce. So in engineering, we said we needed more people. When you look on the right, you'll see the craft workforce to total construction cost, which is an output metric, just a number that you submit in the 1010 survey. And then on the left, we've got the leading indicators of human resources, safety, and sustainability. So interestingly enough, sustainability is the only leading indicator that actually ranged all the way from 0% to 100% out of all the projects that were submitted. So if you haven't reached 100% yet, which you'll find out here in a month or so, definitely make sure you pay attention to the sustainability research topic, which I believe is presented tomorrow, to be able to get there a little bit sooner. And then on the flip side of it, safety, we all know that safety is our top priority at CII and at Burns & Mac and companies here. It actually had the smallest variance. So why is that? What's the difference between sustainability and safety? Well, it really is mature. It's organizationally mature. We've been practicing it for many years. We're getting very good at benchmarking and progress reporting, and we're going to talk here in a little bit about near misses and stuff like that. We're really good at that. So you can see that it's having an impact. So it just drives, for me, it drives us even more to start looking at these other leading indicators. Then safety, real quick, in the 1010 is defined as the project team to eliminate any potential of personal injury or property damage on the project. Pretty standard. So takeaways here, you see on the left for the high side of safety and human resources, if we maintain a focus on safety and we put the right people doing the right jobs, even in the field, then we can actually reduce our craft workforce on a project. How much? Anywhere between 31 and 44% on average is what we can see. So like I said, in engineering, we need more engineers. We need a little bit longer time potentially to slow down the burn rate, get a higher quality design. We actually can see a reduction in the construction schedule and the workforce needed, the craft workforce needed to accomplish a job. Skipped ahead. The only 1010 leading indicator that we actually didn't talk about was controlling. And controlling is defined as the work management performs to regulate the work in progress and complete. So it's, are you establishing standards? Are you measuring those standards? Are you evaluating the measurements that you're taking? And then are you taking corrective action? One of those, you've got to do all four. And if we do that, what we've seen is the output metric that we've tied to controlling, is TRIR. So we've seen with a high level of controlling, are we managing what we're doing? Are we tracking how it's actually going? And if it's not going well, are we actually correcting it? If we're doing those things, and with respect to safety, we can dramatically improve our TRIR on a project. Anywhere between, or up to, 87%. There we go. So there's no doubt about it that it has a huge impact on projects in today's world. So with a focus on controlling, making sure we get the right people, once again, kind of a mantra, I guess from engineering, one thing to take away. If we get the right people doing the right things, we will make it easier for system turnover to whoever or whatever and get things going and move into startup and commissioning.
Finally, we get to startup. As you look at the graph here on the far right, it's, we've talked about variance in some of these indicators and outputs and input measures. This one really stood off the page. As you can see on the right, there was one project that beat their startup schedule by 90%. I can promise you that was not a ConocoPhillips project. And on the high end was almost 2.5 times. So, here we are talking about CII member companies with the best practices. So why do we have such a large variation in the output measure? Well, you can see planning, organizing, and human resources all have a big effect on that. For organizing, those that do well versus those that are on the low end, you can see a 30% faster startup schedule based on how they're organized and how their teams communicate between each other. So, the 10-10 program, even in startup, you can see that, some of these soft metrics really affect a project outcome. So utilizing the 10-10 metrics can really help you pinpoint where maybe some of the issues you have in some of your outputs from your project teams. Before I start on
you can go ahead and cue that up. What this is Billy Beane discussing with the Boston Red Sox owner, John Henry, about his methodology, and John Henry saying this should be the thing that changes the game forever.
Well,
For $41 million, you built a playoff team. You lost Damon, Giambi, Isringhausen, Pena, and you won more games without them than you did with them. You won the exact same number of games that the Yankees won, but the Yankees spent $1.4 million per win, and you paid $260,000. I know you're taking it into the teeth out there, but the first guy through the wall, he always gets bloody. Always. This is threatening, not just a way of doing business, but in their minds it's threatening the game. But really what it's threatening is their livelihood. It's threatening their jobs. It's threatening the way that they do things. And every time that happens, whether it's a government or a way of doing business or whatever it is, the people who are holding the reins, have their hands on the switch, they go batshit crazy. I mean, anybody who's not tearing their team down right now and rebuilding it using your model, they're dinosaurs. They'll be sitting on their ass on the sofa in October watching the Boston Red Sox win the World Series.
I think what's important here is his phrase, they're dinosaurs. And we want to give you an opportunity to have a Q&A. And what you've seen up here with our presentation, well-intended folks, very well versed in the subject matter. We had several rehearsals, and we had significant pressure up here, whether you knew it or not, because we had a malfunction of a remote. The boss here keeps looking at the timer. I feel pressure to go, move fast, not tell him I have 4 other slides. We had people rushing through. We were a project. Things changed. So I'm going to step out and hope I don't get fired by the boss and he actually invites me back next year and start to take questions. There's a booth outside that's going to talk to the 1010 assessment program, so we'd like to direct you out there. We will make ourselves available as well as other CII members, and we encourage you to submit more and more of your projects so we can continue this conversation. But we want to hear from you. We want to talk to you. So at this time, I want to open up the floor, and there is someone out with a microphone. So if you have a question or a comment that you would like to offer, please raise your hand, and we have folks out in the audience with microphones that will come your way. This isn't your wedding day. You can actually stand up and say something.
No questions. I guess we did a good job, apparently. Everybody completely understands.
I will close with this. This is a difficult conversation to have because we're asking you to consider doing things differently than you've done for so many years prior. We've all signed commitment statements. How many times have we been in a big room like this with a number of people and we put up on the wall, "We shall be the best," and we all sign our little names, and then we walk out of the room and reality slaps us in the face? How many times have we brought teams together and said, contractor and owner and subcontractor, let's sing Kumbaya and make sure everybody's on board and aligned? And then you actually walk out on a project and reality slaps you in the face. Just like you saw us, well-intended folks, doing great work. You guys are doing great work. But is there an opportunity inside of the work that we've always known and how to do it, where we can take advantage and say, maybe we can do it and look at it a little bit differently and not become the dinosaurs that we could be if we don't change and look at the world with a different point of view? On behalf of this group, we want to thank you and the CII teams that contributed to the assessment program. And we appreciate it and offer again ourselves up for any questions that you may have. Thank you very much.